Welcome to the Innovia Conversation. My name is Steve Waltz.
And I'm Jeff Progalski. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to take this one over. Sorry, Steve. Well, we're still new at this podcast thing, so we have to. You can't expect perfection right out of the gate. So I see that I think on our website, I noticed under the event page, Innovia.com/events, that Steve, you've got an event coming up called Rapid Fire 60 Sales Tips in 30 Minutes to help you crush your sales quota. Why are you doing this? Like, what's the reasoning behind it?
That's a good question, Jeff. Being in the field of sales for over 30 years and dealing with sales teams, sales managers, and salespeople, only half the salespeople hit their quota on an annual basis, and half the sales managers. And it seems like, those people that do are having a happy New Year's, and those that don't really are kind of worried about their annual reviews coming up. So I thought what I would do is basically give some tips that you can put basically into practice immediately to help you kind of start the year off on a good note so you can crush your quota.
Awesome. I do see that you are a sales guru as identified on the website. So you're the perfect guy for this. So you think that since this is a podcast, we're going to try to keep it short. You think you can give us like maybe your top 10 sales tips or something like that?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. So what we can do is maybe what I'll do is I'll take 10 of those 60 and kind of put them in the rapid fire type of thing. So you can kind of get an idea what the webinar is going to be and hopefully get a takeaway from it to kind of help you with your quota. You let me know when you want to go. I mean, I don't know if you can put the timer on me, you can put pressure on me, or what are you going to do here?
No, I'll keep it. I'm not like I'm not rude like you Bears fans. I'm going to keep it just laid back and easy. I'm going to give you a countdown, and then I want you to hit me with 10 sales tips, rapid fire style. Are you ready?
All right, bring them on, Big Daddy. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Well, the first tip I always like to use is one word. It's called a greeting. And for some reason, it's almost forgotten, especially in this technology age of email. A greeting's simple. It sets the tone of your engagement, and it's so important. If you're talking with somebody, it's like, "Hi, my name is Steve Waltz. Hey, appreciate your time." That's a greeting. In an email, what if you think about it, if somebody sends you an email and they don't put your name, they just put the message in the body, it's kind of not rude, but it's just kind of impersonal. So it's real simple on the email. Hi, address their name, happy Monday. Thank you for your time. That's a greeting. Tip number 2, stage the process. I do a lot of talks on CRM, presentations. I talk with sales managers and leadership teams about how they can improve their sales. And if 2/3 of CRM implementations are considered failures. And a lot of it is because they try to implement something that doesn't exist, and that's called sales process. So if you're a salesperson or a sales manager, you need to kind of have a plan. I mean, it can be basically pretty simple, right? When you meet somebody, there's your greeting, right? And then what's your next step? Oh, is your next step an appointment? Maybe you go on site. Well, then maybe when you go on site, you kind of answer the questions and maybe set up for a demo or a formal presentation. And then after that, your next step is maybe a proposal. And then you win it, lose it, and go on to the next one. But at least you have a process that you're following versus kind of winging it. So the next one I have, number 3, is something I've used for a long time, Jeff, in sales training. And I like to call it move the chair. What I mean by that, I want you to think of you're sitting across from somebody at a table. And normally when you're doing that, it's like you're selling to that person or you're trying to have a conversation. So I want you to picture yourself picking that chair up, moving it on the other side of the table, and put the chair next to the person you're talking with. And the mindset should be, instead of you trying to sell them across the table, you're trying to help them solve their problems, see if there's a fit for your product. And it's almost like you're rooting for them. And when you have that mindset, it helps that conversation go a lot smoother, a lot easier. Right. Number 4 is understand the numbers of selling. If you look at numbers, they say that 90% of the salespeople have never read a book on sales. It's interesting. My wife's a teacher, so she has to actually keep hours up to keep her license up. When I was in healthcare sales, the clinicians, the dietitians, the nurses, the physicians all had to have hours to take, to keep up their license. And for some reason, salespeople, don't do that. So you want to separate yourself. Also, the numbers of selling. that only 50% of the salespeople make one sales call. And the numbers show that 80% of all sales are between the 5th and the 12th sales call, and less than 10% of salespeople do that. Those are profound numbers. So if you're persistent and actually have a plan, you're going to be a top 5, 10%er. Number 5, follow up. Kind of coincides with that. It's like a lost art. Oh, did you give them a call back? Yeah, I called them about a month ago. Oh, okay. So we need to do massive action. We need to keep following up with the customer. Like I said, it takes sometimes between 5 and 10 calls to close the deal. So we need to be strong at following up. Tip number 6, and this is probably the hardest one for salespeople. It's not about you. Right? Hey, Mr. Mrs. Customer, you got an hour? Let me tell you about myself. I don't think they want that conversation. People like to go in and talk to them. Hey, let me tell you about my trips, my family. You know what? In all honesty, they kind of care, but they really don't care. It's really about them. You're learning about their situation, their problems, their pain points, what you can do to help them achieve their goals. And when you make it about them versus about you, Jeff, I'm telling you, good things happen. The next one is tip number 7 is what's called the straight line method of selling. Jason Belford, the guy, if you ever watched the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, he had a book called The Way of the Wolf, and it's called the straight line selling method. And a lot of salespeople do and don't even realize it. But what's interesting is that there's 3 things that we need to do in order to get a sale or close a deal. So he had this group of people that were selling low dollar stocks called the Stratonites to people that had a lot of money. And so he found that there's 3 things that people have a level of certainty on. The first one is the product or the service you're selling is going to fill their need. There needs to be a high level of certainty. The second part of the straight line is you. They need to see you as a respected person in your industry, that they trust you, and you have a good value proposition. And then the third one of the straight line is your company. Your company needs to be well respected in the industry it's in, market leaders, and a very trustworthy company. And that each person has a level of certainty different than each other. Like some people need 70% to make a decision. Some need to be 80%. But we need to have a level of certainty in all 3 of those to close a deal. All right, number 8. This is one where most salespeople struggle with, and most organizations. Different versus better. Right? If you're trying to sell your wares on why you're better than your competition, well, you're going to spin your wheels. It's about why you're different. What do you do differently? What makes you different than the pack? Here at Innovia, we want to be the Ritz-Carlton of NAV partners. So we try to go out of our way to do that, to separate ourselves from our competition. The next one would be number 9, pre-plan. And this is another thing, what's kind of lost in sales is we have all this data in our CRM systems that we actually have notes. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I really can't remember what I did 4 weeks ago. So I kind of put it in my notes. But before I call on this customer, I want to go back and look at what we talked about, what their pain points were. So when I have my plan to go in, I want to know what my current goal is and what my next steps will be. So when I leave there, I actually have a plan. And last, number 10, what is a lost art in this great world of trying to sell product or services is ask. And I was told a long time ago, why are you beating around the bush, Steve? Just ask. And think about kids, right? They want something, they just point blank ask you, right? So if so many salespeople do great presentations, hey, what do you think? Oh, I think it was great. Okay, see you later. They didn't ask for a next step. They didn't ask for anything. And it's just amazing how often that happens. So to be a top salesperson, tip number 10, Jeff, is just ask. So did I keep it close to 5 minutes, or how did I do?
Oh, just a second. I'm
Are you waking
notes. Up? No, I'm not. I was trying to write all these things down because I actually am guilty of about 70% of the things that you said I should be working on. No, great job, Steve. I think that's awesome. And it actually just reminds me that these podcasts, have a certain, I think, trying to focus on ERP, but certainly sales is an important part of any company, and certainly as it relates to Business Central having CRM functionality in it. I think that you bring up some points about even before we get into the software, how do we plan for it, and how can we align the software with our sales process, and those are all great topics I think that we can be digging into going forward on this Innovia Conversation podcast. So thank you for that. I don't know. Do we have anything else to talk about this time, or do you think that's a wrap?
Well, Jeff, I think what we covered today is good, and hopefully you got something out of the top 10 tips. And so, if you have the opportunity, Jack Welch, one of the greatest leaders of all time for General Electric, said, there's two things that are going to drive a company to succeed and survive, and that is innovation and marketing. Right, you develop and market great product. You develop a great product or service, but if people don't know about it and you don't sell it, it doesn't really matter. So if you have members of your sales team, sales leadership, or people you think that would be interested, if you go to our website, depending on when you listen to the podcast, it's either going to be coming up or it will be recorded on our website. There's also webinars that I've done on CRM for Innovia, but also for the user group that's on the navig.com website also, to help you kind of make your CRM implementations a large success. So I think, Jeff, we can end it on that, and we appreciate everybody joining our podcast today.
All right. Thanks, Steve, and thanks, everyone. We will talk to you next time on the Innovia Conversation.